Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second episode of the interview with Firas Khalifeh. I'm your host, Maria Taiji, and this is the international episode of Future Hacker. So, Firas, what's next when it comes to the evolution of mobile phones? Flexible screens? Having it all inputted on glasses? Or maybe even implanted on the skin? Let's get creative and think about many years from now. What's your guess? Where would you be betting your coins?
It's a big question and there is no certain answer. And I think there is already a huge amount of investment in different answers, actually, for this question. So foldable screens, flexible screens, transparent screens that you see it like more like a glass, fully glass, and also different shape of screens. That's also happening. And then you have the augmented reality glasses that you might see something maybe from Apple soon. It's been in the making for a couple of years with them. And everyone is anticipating that this next will be the next big thing. And also a lot of other companies are working on that area. There is a lot of material science that's required behind this as well. You're really speaking about the molecule level to be able to pull out something that's flexible, for example, etc. So graphene is one of the materials that really allowed a lot of things to happen. Flexible screens are like graphene has a big part playing in that, and also transparent screens. So it's really about like a combination of material scientists, electronics, and like the whole industry to work together from all different aspects of the science to pull out something new. On our side, we started to work on the future of foldable devices at Carbon Mobile. We have something in the making that we're planning to have it in the future. We already have a big plan for it. The most important thing about all these technologies is not really about the technology itself. It's really about the experience that you get out of it. For example, right now you have foldable devices that are almost like double smartphone. It's like you're having two smartphones stacked to each other, and on average the smartphone is around 200 grams at like 8 millimeter thickness. So you will have, if you have a sandwich like that or foldable, then you will have like roughly around 400 grams. That's almost half a kilo. So imagine you have half kilo on your ear. Like that's the last thing you want. And even in terms of thickness, it wouldn't fit in your pocket. So the problem with technology is that the companies are pushing so hard on just the technology bit without really thinking that whether the consumer would be able to use that. And that's what we think about it. And that's why we think that the future of foldables is really relying around the composite materials, the new materials that we're working on to make things thinner, lighter, stronger, and more sustainable in that bit. As I told you at the beginning that I love to work on conceptual tech that comes for the future, even to prototype one thing at a time. I think glasses that you can wear on your head is something that I see is happening. Flexible devices, super thin, transparent, that's something would happen. A good example you can see is the TV show Westworld. Westworld, they have these very thin tablets that are foldable and at the same time transparent. Like they're seamless at the same time. You don't feel like you're using technology. It's just like so seamless. You just open it and like just use it. And then you fold it again in your pocket and you keep going. And I think that's what really inspired me. I feel like the future for smartphones should be much, much thinner, much lighter, much stronger devices. And then flexible, transparent, it's possible. There's huge problems around that. It's a battery, for example. Like, what are you going to do about it? You cannot have a battery that's transparent or flexible. So it's not only about the screen, it's about a lot of components inside. PCB, the main board. I mean, like, there might be a future where you see the main board start to be flexing, but that's like, nobody has seen that yet in a way that you have a flagship chipset inside working in that direction. The good thing about our position as well is that a lot of those technologies, you only see them when they're ready to be adopted at millions of units. And for Carbon Mobile, our company, we are able to implement those even if we are able to produce thousands of them. We don't need to produce millions. And that's a good position of a new emerging company because we can adapt and disrupt very quickly. Of course, these kind of technologies at the same time are super expensive to do the R&D for them. It's required us a couple of years once we put our food properly into the market and we have good sales so we can have a proper R&D in that area. That's how I see the future. There is no one single answer. What is it exactly? I think it's a combination of all. Some things will fail. Some other stuff will get successful. I do have hopes for classes that are so seamless, not so bulky, but that would require a lot of material engineering.
It makes a lot of sense to me. It's not only about working with new technology, it must make sense to the users on the first place. Which other materials you think could be more explored by the industry? You mentioned to me making phones out of CO2. How would that possibly work? And what else do you think it's out there?
I think it's super exciting stuff that come in the future. One of the things that we are working on is a partnership with different institutes and companies. It's already known that CO2 collection and storage exist. So you can collect CO2, you can store CO2, but then it's up to you what you're going to do with that. You can convert that into different sources, like through many different processes and many different technologies that were a lot of companies working on. But one of the things that excite us the most is the conversion of CO2 into carbon fiber and the conversion of CO2 into plastic. But mostly on the carbon fiber bit, it was actually that invention happened in Germany. And that's one of the reasons our company is located here, because there is a lot of material science and sustainability research that happened here. What they did is that they managed to find a way to convert CO2 into almost a one-to-one matching version carbon fiber through a certain type of algae that you find from the nature and through photosynthesis process. So we'll be able to, with that photosynthesis process, you'll be able to convert CO2 into carbon fiber. And then that carbon fiber can be used for production in actual processing, for example, smartphones. We are working on is to start to prototype next year on producing the first ever CO2-based carbon fiber smartphone from our side. The principle here is that this will cost a lot of money. Right now, this is more like a lab-grown meat, if you know what I mean. Like when this is still in the lab, that meat is so expensive. But when you see a vegan meat that's produced is much cheaper, because now it's mass production scale. And the same thing with the CO2. So for example, if you want to build it, it will cost us roughly around 50,000 euros. That's more than $50,000 per unit. But we know that over the next years, this will change. Now, this is one thing actually, but also there is some more important stuff that are happening in the industry. One thing is that conversion, carbon fiber that is sourced out of wood. So from linen oil, you can convert it into carbon fiber coming out of the wood. And there is some companies in Europe, one of the big manufacturers for wood, they're doing that. So that will be a bio-based carbon fiber. Another thing that we want to tap into is the potential of flax fibers. So flax fibers are coming from, when you have linen shirts, the raw material is flax. So you can use the flax and also hemp fiber, but what we are more excited about is the flax that we can convert it into composite. And you can use it exactly the same way you use carbon fiber. And the moment you do that, then all the science and research and the work that we did in this company on how to use carbon fiber for electronics, we can implement it using other composites. So the cool thing about composites is that it's really, the word composite is like you're compositing different materials. What's super interesting about that is unlike metal or plastic, is that you're not you're getting the benefit of 2 or 3 different materials characterization at the same time. You're able to get the mechanical properties of that and the mechanical properties of the other one, and then combining it with the electrical properties or thermal properties of that one. So that the limitation is really infinite here. You can't do anything about this. So we're excited about flax because all the examples that I told you are mainly about way more sustainable options for future of the industry. And we believe that if we manage to put ourselves into our food in the industry, we will be able to make great changes in the future.
Using the lead meat as an example was great. In the beginning, it was completely out of reach because of the cost to produce it, right? And nowadays, it's getting out there. With the volume, cost decreases, and it becomes more accessible to everyone. So that's how it goes, right? Let's move on to artificial intelligence. It has been used in material science, so computers could design those billions of possible materials, which would take humans decades to sort out. Those new materials could be applied to all sorts of technologies, from TVs to even explosives. How do you see the evolution of technology affecting your industry?
Wow, that's a very interesting area. I mean, myself coming as a mainly software engineer, I know quite a bit about artificial intelligence. We didn't implement it yet in our company in terms of material science, for example. The area where you see that is called material informatics. Material informatics is the area of exploring new materials and the combination of what you can do with materials through computer science and AI, and have machine learning models to run against materials that you already know, and to run against molecules that you can build the way you want and do experiments on them. And that's definitely beneficial because, for example, if you want to do things properly, if you want to explore a new combination of material, for example, just to give you an example, like having carbon fiber that has a different type of thermoplastic on it, it requires roughly around 6 months. When the interesting bit is that when we speak with material scientists, for them the sky is the limit. Like they can do anything. It's impressive because when you sit with them, it feels like you're sitting with a developer or somebody is writing code. For them, the materials are really like code, and they can break it down, and they can like, okay, what do you want? You want it more stronger, or you want it thinner, lighter, you want it to be adhesive, you want it to be isotropic, you want, like, what is the objective? And they can tune that for this process. The problem we see here is that this is a very, very expensive thing to do. And it's also very time consuming. The process can take between 6 months to 1 year to explore new material. Of course, it depends what you want to do. It can be as simple, but also even the simplest thing you want to do, you want to make sure that this is, first of all, can be tested. You can make the samples. Once you test them, then you need to find a production process for it. Then, of course, you're working with big factories, not only working with scientists, because you want to go to the factory and tell them, hey, I want to produce 500 kilos of this, so it can be produced. So for the factory, they need to find a new process for that to be implemented, so et cetera, et cetera. So you can understand how complex is that. And definitely, if we manage to implement artificial intelligence and material informatics in that field, it will help us to be able to build models of new materials and find completely new combination of what is like the super light, transparent, and strong, like different combinations that you want to do. And being able to simulate those in a machine learning model, and being able to analyze do simulation. Simulation is already existed actually for materials, but you can do things much faster in parallel at the same time. So material simulation, materials characterization, you need to do electrical characterization, mechanical, thermal, etc. So all of this can be done with AI in matter of weeks, because if you have a specific domain AI, so it's not a general purpose, specific for purpose AI made for this, I think you can explore a lot of potential materials. And this can fasten the process, at least between the time that you are studying on paper and do simulation on a computer, where you want to see how that perform on a specific smartphone, for example. So for the same smartphone, we can have experimentation of many different type of carbon fibers and many different type of twills or flax fiber. And then we do all of that, and we choose the right thing that we want to do. We have 4 options, for example, and then you go for production. That definitely will save a lot of time. And not only that, but also, as you said, there is a lot of things that we don't know that can be existed. And a machine learning model will be able to combine different type of molecules all together to be able to get like a little bit of metal or carbon, etc., to build the right equations that we need for specific type of materials. I'm not sure if the future even can go to a place where those things can be at your home, where you can 3D print them. You can this sounds too crazy, but I think it might be possible that either you have a 3D printer at home that can do these combinations, or you can do it in a lab next to your place, and where you can do these customizations and see things working. Of course, there's requirements for big ovens or huge, big machines. I don't see that going away, but there might be a future where things can be simpler than this.
And, let's go for all the connectivity that 5G will also bring us, right? If we apply that to those new technologies, we can't avoid talking about cybersecurity. Currently, we're so vulnerable when it comes to mobile phones. It's amazing how easy it is to get hacked. So do you see the risk increasing, or do you feel we'll be able to evolve the security areas as fast? Because, everybody's talking about connectivity of everything with 5G. It comes to IoT, and now everything is going to be, as much as it's going to be faster and better, on the same time, we're going to be more hacked. Let's, put it in this way. What's your view?
Well, I think we will be hacked faster, right? I think I thought about it as a joke actually before, but in fact, just imagine this: like you as an end user don't need that amount of bandwidth on your smartphone. Literally, like for 5G technologies, smartphone can make maybe 5% of the applications, but 5G is way beyond that. It's more for autonomous vehicles, is more for IoT devices, things that needs to happen in real time with a huge amount of data that needs to be distributed quickly. If you're hacking a smartphone, then instead of, if you have like 150 gigabyte on your phone, if you're using 4G, that will take a lot of time. If you have 5G, and these kind of movies where James Bond or Mission Impossible, they tap a device into a device and then you see the loading bar copying all the content. That can be possible with 5G. You can see it happening so quickly. I think there is no efforts for safety together with the 5G, together with cybersecurity. Everything is happening in parallel. There's big regulations about 5G and how much that is damaging as a signal for human. That's a different story. And then you have the story of cybersecurity, which is also different. Yet you can you can protect the infrastructure, and that's their job to when they build 5G infrastructure to be secure. But that doesn't mean that your phone or the terminals are very secure. It's a different thing. It depends on the hardware, the software, the Android that you're running or iOS to be super secure for that. I don't think that 5G development is going to make a better cybersecurity. It's two different things. But I think it will open opportunities for new solutions and more real-time information to happen. Regardless of having crazy surveillance system that will be boosted for different governments in different places. You take the example of China and how Europe deal with data and how the US deal with data. So in China, the data for the government. In US, the data is for the companies. And in Europe, the data is for the people. So there they have the choice to choose that. So that's a big differences over there, but that doesn't solve the cybersecurity issues.
And I love the comparisons you just made regarding each territory. Very well defined, Firas. Lastly, the question that we had to ask our guests here at Future Hacker. How do you see the future of humanity? Do you have this more pessimistic view where machines will end up outpacing humans? Or are you an optimistic and humans will learn to live in harmony with nature, will recycle, use renewable energy, and be more sustainable and inclusive? That's clearly your company's bet, but how do you personally feel if we are actually on the right way to it?
I don't know, it's hard to say. I'm very optimistic in general about technology. I'm super excited about it. But also, traveling a lot and seeing a lot of stuff, I've become a bit pessimistic about the usage of that, the usage of technology. I've seen stuff that I think there's so much power in in the hand of governments or companies, etc. Unless, if you see more machines, like eventually there will be more machines than humans. That's coming for sure. And I think if you don't provide universal basic income, you will end up in a big problem. And even if you provide that, you might be doing well. And then if that, for example, government over time changed from being democratic into having a crazy guy on the top of the hierarchy, and we've seen those examples, right? And then things can be very drastic because that system is set up. Machines are working more than humans. And in 10 years from now, something changed in the policies, like this can really destroy humanity. And I think this is the same thing about AI, where you can see Elon Musk is very cautious and very worried about the future of AI versus Mark Zuckerberg is more open to do more stuff. While Elon Musk is actually involved in AI companies and he's doing a lot of stuff. I think the future, for me, I'm trying to be optimistic as much as possible. I think there will be a lot of different companies, government, who will be abusing the systems and abusing these technologies. It really depends on, it's a tool, and AI, like machining and robotics, is also tools, so it depends on how you use it. I think in terms of recyclability, companies become more aware. In 10 years from now, you will see more consumer electronics and more consumer goods companies start to take care more of that. And you can see it already happening with Apple. You will see it happening with other brands. You cannot leave that choice to the consumer only. Like, you cannot just tell them, oh yeah, you're buying the product. No, you need to make sure that when you sell the product, you're making sure that all the parts inside are done recyclably and sustainably and for longevity. They need to last for a long time. Same thing for packaging of the products. Like, you need to make sure that these biodegradable materials or recyclable materials are being used. Yeah, and I think renewable energy, I always have the image of when I go to factories in China and you already wear masks over there, by the way. So masks are not new in China. When you go there, you get a lot of exposure to pollution. I hope that would improve. I think by China, for example, they said by 2060, they will be carbon neutral. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I think a lot of governments, I'm pushing towards that. And I think renewable energy is definitely the future. There's a lot available. It's just about being able to utilize that and get it from the right sources. That's my view about the future.
So there's really a lot to be discussed when it comes to ethics and the best use of technologies. Firas, thank you so much for being here with us today. You have such a great story to share. And I do hope you are able to accomplish your goals. It's just great to have people like you out there in the market, right? So do you have any final words for our listeners?
Well, Maria, thanks a lot for having me on the program. I think final words. Just want to tell people what we're doing. And for anyone who wants to build a company, just go out and do it. And it's for us, it took 5 years of work. And we still, we're about to finally ship our product. It's a lot of patience, resilience, and huge efforts. There will be tears and bloods and a lot of problems that will happen. And it's definitely not easy at all. And there's so much sacrifices you got to do along the way. And I think this journey, I learned so much. I think I learned for 20 years in 5 years condensed. I feel like I went through a lot of things. And I'm very, very glad for that. It's really because you have this idea of the future will be different. The future will be, we see ourselves as the new player coming out of Europe, replacing Nokia and Siemens, who were there before, and Ericsson. And so we see ourselves as the new European alternative. And we want to be that new player joining the Olympics along with the big guys. And that's really the ambition, and that's what keeps us patient. And we want just to make sure, put that product in the market and put your foot into the market and then move from there. And that's how we see it. So yeah, it takes a lot of efforts. I think there's much more towards the personal struggle and stories. I went through really horrible times before to make this happen, and you would need to go through a couple of times completely rock bottom, like really rock bottom, and get out of it again. But the thing is, the moment you do it first time, your resilience and strength just increases surprisingly. So when things like COVID hits you again, you would be much more ready for such a situation. So yeah, I'm very glad to be on the show. Thanks a lot for your time.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.